Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be running you through the books that I read in the month of December and then some of the books that I may read in the month of January. Before I kick off, I do just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. I am really looking forward to this year. I think there's going to be a lot of really exciting stuff happening, and as always, I'm really particularly excited about the books that I'm going to read and then perhaps even more importantly, discussing those books with all of you folks. Thanks again for supporting my channel. I'm really excited to see where this goes. And I think with that said, we can now go over the books that I read in the month of December. I read 6 books, I think it was, in the month of December. I did read across genres as well. So the first book that I read in the month of December was Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. This book has been on my list for such a long time, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna read it because a couple of people, particularly Dan, one of my patrons, have been talking about it and have been raving about it. So I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I totally get why so many people talk about this book. I totally get why it has so much hype surrounding it. I think it's just such a fantastic book about war and the impact of war and propaganda, and it's just amazing. I'm going to do a dedicated video on this, so watch this space for that. I gave this book a 5 stars. The next book I read was a quick read, and that was Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I was going to watch the movie the week after, so I wanted to read the book before I went, and it's literally like an hour long. It's a very, very, very short book. And so I wanted to give it a quick read before I went to the cinema. And I also really, really loved it. I thought it was really impactful. It's such a small book, and yeah, it really packs a punch. I think the thematic work around religion and community and how religion can, you know, impact community sometimes in a very negative way was super, super well done. I thought as well, I might as well just say it, I thought the movie was also really, really good. Like, I think the movie did justice to the book. And I think if you have read the book and you haven't watched the movie yet, then I would definitely recommend it. I gave this one a 4 stars. I am now very keen to read some of Claire Keegan's other books, and I definitely will do that this year. Then I read Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. This is the first book in the Nevernight Chronicles. I've already done like a 50-minute deep dive on this book. I really did not like it. I gave it a 1 star. It was just utterly ghastly, to be honest. And I don't think I will be reading the next 2 books in the series because I just don't want to. Then we have Necessity by Jo Walton. This is the 3rd book in the Thessaly trilogy, with the first book being The Just City. I mentioned the first book because I have raved about the first book on my channel quite a few times, and I think it's such an underrated sci-fi fantasy series that a lot more people need to read. Jo Walton is an absolutely incredible writer. She is so talented. She's also very good friends with Ada Palmer, for anybody who might be interested in that, who is also a very talented sci-fi writer from what I've heard so far. Palmer is an author that I really want to try out this year too. So if you are somebody who has read Ada Palmer and you've enjoyed their stuff, then I think you should definitely consider picking up Jo Walton. But even if you haven't, her books are so good and they're so underrated. Her writing is so good, so philosophical, very much about human nature. And I think this 3rd book really did justice to the overall trilogy. I think this one was much more meta, much more philosophical, and I really enjoyed how the series ended up, which I was a little bit nervous about after I finished the 2nd book, which I didn't like as much, but the 3rd book was fantastic. I gave this one a 4 stars. Great ending to what shaped up to be a really great trilogy. Then I read Novola by Paolo Bacigalupi. I definitely said that wrong. I think it might be Bacigalupi, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But this is a book that I've had on my radar for quite a long time. It's historical fantasy fiction. It is a standalone from what I understand. Paolo has another book that I'm really curious to read, and that is The Wind-Up Girl, which I will probably read this year. But this one I was particularly interested about because I'd heard it'd been heavily influenced by Renaissance Italy, which I've said many times on my channel is a period of history that I just absolutely love. I've done so much reading about it. I've watched everything you possibly could about it, at least that I'm aware of. And I just love that period of history. So whenever I see it kind of redone in fantasy or fiction or historical fiction, then I'm always going to pick it up. And I have to say, I think he did an absolutely amazing job of making this world feel very, very grounded, even though this is very much a fantasy book. I am going to do a dedicated review on this book because it really, really deserves it. It was fantastic. It was 5 stars. It reminds me quite a bit of The Falling Knife. So if you like The Falling Knife, then I definitely think you should consider picking this book up. But just bear in mind that there are a few major differences that I'll talk more about in my review. But it was just so good. 5 stars. Then the next book that I read was a Japanese translated fiction book, and that was The Beggar Student by Osamu Dazai. Osamu Dazai is an author that I've had on my radar for quite some time, and he wrote, unfortunately he's no longer with us, but he did write a lot of kind of historical literary fiction. And I decided to pick up The Beggar Student because this is his new one coming out in 2025, as in it's not new, it's just that it's been finally translated into English. And I saw that it was pretty short, and after reading Novola, which is quite a long book, I thought, you know, it'd be nice to read something a little bit shorter. I really loved it. Like, it's such a small book, and yet again, kind of similar to small things like these, it really packs a punch. There's a lot of conversation around like finding yourself and kind of maintaining that inner curiosity that we all have when we're children, but we seem to lose when we become adults. And it's just really, really good. Like, if you want a really quick read that is just going to make you think about life, I strongly recommend it. It was great. It was a 5 stars. And then finally, the last book that I read in the month of December was an absolute heavy hitter, and that was The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This book was absolutely amazing, and I just really do feel like whenever I finish a Dostoevsky book, and honestly, most of the Russian books that I've read so far, like something within me changes, like something within my like the fabric of my being changes, and I feel that way of The Brothers Karamazov. I'm going to do a dedicated video on this, so I'm not going to say much more beyond that, but I loved it. I get why a lot of people say it's his best work. I wouldn't say it's personally my favorite, but I get it. I get it. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't find it as hard to read as a lot of people warned me that it would be, but maybe that's also because I'm also quite experienced in reading classics. I don't know, but it was a pretty smooth reading experience for me. The Pevier and Volokhonsky translation was really good for me, and without a doubt I gave this one a 5 stars, so there we go. So that's what I read in the month of December. It was a really, really strong month. I had 1 1-star, 1 4-star, and then 4 5 stars. Like, that's an exceptional month in my opinion. Okay, so let's go through what I'm going to read in the month of January. I'm going to keep quite a loose TBR for January just because I am traveling quite a lot in January. I am going to the US at the end of the month, and I will be there for about 3 weeks. And I have said this before, that when I travel, I do often read quite a bit less, just because lots is generally going on and I generally find it harder to make time to read. But that being said, I've got quite a nice schedule this time, so I think, don't quote me on this, I think I'll be able to get a decent amount of reading done. But with that in mind, the books that I've got on my list are Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. This I'm really, really excited to read because I've just heard like so many great things about this book, and I think given the thematic work that it's exploring, like I think this could be a book that I'm really going to love, so I'm definitely going to pick that up. Then we have The Setting Sun by Osamu Dazai. This is one of the authors that I mentioned in my December TBR. I've owned this book for quite a few months now, and I really want to pick it up because I want to read one of his full-length novels. The book that I read last month is quite a short, it's like a short story, whereas this is a full-length novel, so I'm definitely keen to pick that up. And then the first book that I'm going to read in the month that I've already started reading at the time that I'm filming this video is Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher. This is the first book in the Manifest Illusions trilogy, I believe it is. I've said before, this is probably the series that I get asked to review the most out of any other series or author. Like, this is the one that I get asked to review the most. So I'm finally doing it. I'm over 30% of the way through, so I'm hoping in the next couple of days I'll get that finished. Then I also want to read a sci-fi book this month. I want to read across a bunch of different genres this month. I'm either thinking that I will pick up 1984 by George Orwell. Believe it or not, I've never actually read that book, which feels a little bit criminal, but hey, we do what we can. And then the other option that I have for sci-fi is Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for so long, but I've just never prioritized it, and I really would like to do so this month. The last one that I will probably get to this month is also Volume 8 of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. She's finally released the book. She released it in December, and I'm so excited to read it because it's the chunkiest volume that we've had so far. and Matt, one of my patrons, and I are probably going to read that together, so I'm really excited. I might also read volume 7 before I start volume 8, just to remind myself of what happened. And then we will also probably do a buddy read on my Patreon as well. We might read a non-fiction book this month, but who knows at this point. So that's pretty much it. Those were the books that I read in December, and that's my plan for January. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep January pretty flexible because it's a particularly busy month for me this year, but it is what it is. We'll make it work. After this video goes up, I will be doing my favorite books of 2024 video. So watch this space for that. And then I'll also be doing the worst books that I read in 2024. And then I might also do my book awards video as well. I will definitely be doing the best books and the worst books. I'm debating whether I'm going to do my book awards, but we'll see. And then I'll resume as normal in the next couple of weeks, going back to my reviews and recommendation videos as well. So there we have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do let me know down below in the comments what books you read in the month of December. Did you have a good December reading month? And let me also know what you're planning to kick off the year with, because I'm always really curious to hear what you guys are reading. Thanks for watching. It's great to see you all at the start of 2025. I wish you all the best year possible. One of the key things that we can do is be kind to each other, but also keep learning. Keep discussing things that matter to all of us. And I really hope we can continue to do that on this tiny little corner of the internet. Thanks for watching. I'll see you very, very soon. Take care and stay safe.